Okay, guys, so I know Coach Greg already made a video on this, but I thought I'd give my take on Larry Wheel's video, My Heart After 10 Years of PEDs, because I've been on for 9 years. I was on for 9 years, came off 17 months ago. I've competed with Larry many times. He kind of came up at a similar time to me, so I'll be interested to see how his results mirror mine. Now, I've only had a calcium plaque score done, a CAC. It's called CAC. I've only had that checked in 2018, I believe I got it checked, and my score was a 2. So there was like almost 0, but there was a tiny bit of plaque buildup. And I obviously have bad genetics as far as this stuff goes as well. So that was one decision, one reason why I decided to come off. But I'll be curious what he says.
So with recent events in the fitness industry, bodybuilders dropping dead to the heart attacks, it has left, I think, many of us concerned with our health. And I'm talking about those of us who abuse PEDs. And I have been abusing them for 10 years straight now. I started abusing when I was 17. Okay? I'm 27, going on 28 this year. So long enough for me to be worried about my heart health amongst other major organs. But with that said, I have gotten everything checked out except my heart. So my liver, my kidney, for example, my cholesterol, all checks out okay. You may have seen my video with Justin, autonomic coaching. He did a very comprehensive.
Now, you really have to have like a CT scan done to fully see what your organs look like. You can do, obviously, blood work, check your kidney functions, check your liver functions. So typically on a CMP panel, comprehensive metabolic panel, which is what you're going to get anytime you get blood work, it's going to have kidney functions as far as creatinine and then BUN, blood urea nitrogen. So BUN is influenced by protein intake. It's obviously going to be higher the more protein you eat. And then creatinine is influenced by muscle mass. So to put this into perspective, I've had a creatinine of let's put this in terms of GFR. GFR is basically a measure of how well your kidneys are functioning, but it can be skewed if you calculate it off creatinine. So my GFR based off a creatinine test was I want to say it was like 92. And then based off of, or maybe it was 94, and then based off of a cystatin C, which is a much more accurate metric or biomarker as far as kidney function, my GFR was 120. So that cystatin C isn't influenced by muscle mass. It's a more accurate test. It's a lot more expensive. That's why doctors typically won't do it unless it's requested. But there's basically a 30-point swing as far as how well my kidneys were functioning if you calculated kidney function off cystatin C as opposed to creatinine. So that's something to make note of. And then liver enzymes are obviously going to be ALT, AST. Those are the primary things they're going to look at for the liver, how it's functioning. That's what he's talking about as far as everything checked out. But this is somewhat skewed because unless you were, an organ failure of some kind, these numbers wouldn't be super inflated. Or if you were off cycle, they wouldn't be super inflated. Almost any time you're on cycle, they're going to be inflated, but coming off, it's not going to be so bad. So if he's just getting the stuff checked on like HRT, it's not going to be that bad in all likelihood. So the more accurate way to do it would be a full body CT, or not even full body, just get your kidneys checked, liver, all that kind of stuff. And that will pretty much tell you how everything's functioning. That'll show you if you have enlargement of any organs in there. It'll show everything real well. But CT scan, obviously, you wouldn't want to do very often because of the radiation. CT scans are something you want to do very rarely because of the radiation damage that you could accrue. So ultrasounds would be another way to go. But really, on ultrasounds, won't give you the radiation that the CT scan will. But those are the more accurate ways to really see what your organs look like. Just basic blood work will only tell some of the story. But, his kidneys could still be enlarged. His liver could still be enlarged. So this isn't something that you're necessarily going to all find out about from just blood work.
A diagnostic of all my major organs, excluding my heart. And I've taken medication ever since to regulate everything, and I'm in good health regarding that. But I never had my heart checked out. So this morning, I finally...
So as far as medications, he's probably referring to like blood pressure medication, which I take 80 milligrams of telmisartan and ARB every single day, and I'm not even on anything. I just have naturally high blood pressure genetically, so I just want to cover my bases there. So I take telmisartan. There's a lot of other ARBs. ARBs are like the newer wave of what you can take. The old school medicine was more ACE inhibitors, which are still prescribed, but not as much.
I had a ECG while I was hooked up to the treadmill, okay? And I also had an echo. And essentially what the echo does is it checks for any clogged arteries, any enlarged.
Echocardiogram is something I want to have done. So if I have insurance, but I have like a $5,000 deductible, you can get echocardiograms ordered online for about $720 from certain websites, where you don't have to like get a referral or anything. You literally just pay the $720, and you go into wherever you set it up with, and you can get one done. So that's something I want to have done in the future, because it's going to show the ventricles and show everything's operating. It's going to show if you have any like damage, any enlargement, that sort of thing. So it's the most comprehensive way of seeing how the heart is functioning, even more so than an EKG. But it looks like he had both.
Of the heart, and when you're hooked up to ECG on the treadmill, it tries to identify any irregularities in the heart. Maybe you have an irregular heartbeat, or it's beating too high. So all that checked out okay. I know, I'm shocked. I can't believe myself. After 10 years of, well, I guess not abusing as much as I thought I was, PEDs, my heart is, from what the doctor said, a perfectly normal, healthy heart for a young man my age. It is, the muscle itself is slightly thicker, but that's normal for an athlete, he said. So nothing.
So yeah, typically like an athlete's heart, they'll say is where your heart's enlarged to a slight extent. I don't know like what his heart actually weighed as far as grams, but it's not something you want. You don't want your heart to be bigger than it typically should. That just means it's having to work harder. So one way to bring that down would be beta blockers like Nebivolol or propranolol. And then the other way I would say is blood pressure medication like ARBs, the aforementioned ARBs, telmisartan. So you just want your heart to not have to work as much as possible. Obviously, even beyond medication, the best way to decrease your heart size would be to lose weight and come off PEDs. But I don't think a lot of guys are going to do that, or they're at the very least not going to come off PEDs.
To be concerned about, no need for further testing, and you can imagine that this gives me a lot of peace of mind. So you may be asking, Larry, why are you only checking it out now? You've been on PEDs for 10 years. Why today? As I mentioned during the video, that there have been several bodybuilders in the last couple of years with heart problems and also dying because of it, and it has left me very concerned about my own heart, and having that not having a clue if my heart is healthy or not, didn't make any sense for me to continue going on, not having it checked out. Only took me.
Yeah, I think a lot of the deaths in the industry as far as bodybuilding have really woken people up to what's going on, and people are, steroids aren't all innocent fun. Like they have consequences. So I think everybody's kind of taking a step back at this point and trying to dial their health in a little more, given all the recent deaths in the last few years.
2 hours this morning to have all these tests done, and have everything checked out, and getting that reassurance and that peace of mind to make sure everything's okay, right? But I should have gotten this done much sooner. I was worried what the answer may be. I worried what my heart health may be. I did not want to hear from the doctor, Larry, Larry, you're in poor heart health. So you can imagine what a relief it has been today to hear that it is perfectly normal, healthy heart. It's slightly thicker because I'm an athlete. So I'm going to keep doing what I do, but I don't intend to use this as an excuse to blast PEDs because, well, my heart's in great health, so let me just take everything in the cabinet. That's not.
Larry's getting a little older now. I think he's still like a year or two younger than me, but as you start to near your 30s, I think you take a step back about like, is this worth all the consequences? As far as doing what we did in our younger 20s and really pushing things. So I think he's kind of at that point where he's done everything there's to do. The guy has nothing to prove anymore. He has a huge following. He's done what he needs to do. I don't think he wants to push it as much. So obviously my battery's running low. I'll speed this up here.
At all. Actually, my grandfather did die of a heart attack.
His grandfather died of a heart attack. That's likely that he has some genes that are making prone to heart disease, atherosclerosis, and some of these other things. So that's something he may want to look into as far as like 23andMe. It's not going to test for everything, but he'll check some of the SNPs. He'll find out what he's prone to, and that's something I would take very seriously. Also, he could check lipoprotein little a, which is a marker that tells you it's been linked to heart attacks. It's one of the biggest heart attack risks, actually, even higher risk than having like a high LDL. So that's something he would want to look into, especially if he has these genetics. It's definitely something I would look into if he has family history of this, as I do as well. So that's another reason why I decided to come off and everything like that.
Raising a lot of kids on a very high stress lifestyle, very poor diet, very overweight, and then no be using PEDs, and who decided not to get checked out. You may not be so lucky as me. having symptoms of heart problem, I get my heart checked out and it's in good health.
I would just wrap up this video by saying, like, take those warning signs seriously if there's a family history of this kind of stuff. Like, I would stop a lot of what you're doing. You've proven everything you need to prove, Larry, and I like him. He likes me. I'll have him on at some point as far as an interview, but it's something we can go over then, because that's something I would take seriously, and we'll try to get him to get his 23andMe checked and stuff like that, and we can see what he's got going on. But if you guys like this video, give it an upvote, subscribe, comment for the sake of growing the channel. I appreciate you guys. I'll keep the content coming.